All right, so good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on when you are listening to me. I trust we are doing well. Okay, I know that you have been waiting for this video. It is unfortunate that the institute couldn't provide us the recordings after our initial meeting, but I want to use this opportunity to record all what we did so that we can continue with our training. Okay, so this was the document that I gave you during the training. Um, we had certain issues to cover, and these are the issues, the outline. We looked at the difference between thesis and research article, then conceptual framework, how to write the title of your thesis or your research paper, how to write an abstract, introduction, and so on. Okay, so let's start. The first issue is the difference between thesis and research article. Why this? Why did we start with this? Because those who registered for the program, some said that they want thesis, and some said that they want research article. So I wanted to give you the difference between thesis and then article. Now, when we say thesis, let's start with the thesis. It is a comprehensive academic document submitted for a degree. So those of you doing master's, PhD, you have to submit thesis. In some universities, undergraduate also submit thesis, but usually we call it research project, your research project. So usually masters and PhD students submit thesis or dissertation. But when it comes to research article, it is a concise scholarly paper presenting research findings, usually published in journals. So whilst thesis is meant for a degree, research article is for publication, entirely for publication. So the purpose for thesis is to fulfill academic requirements, as I said. So when you are doing master's or PhD, you are required to produce thesis at the end of your program before you can graduate. But when we come to research article, it is for publication, okay? For publication, not for any academic requirement. The length of thesis is typically long, very long, very long. I remember during my Master of Philosophy, I was required to produce not less than 20,000 words or so. But when it comes to research article, it is shorter. Some journals will even require not more than 8,000 words. Some are 10,000 words, okay? So it should not be beyond that word count. So research articles are very shorter. So when you read all these, the takeaway is that a thesis is a detailed academic work written for a degree. Thesis is meant for a degree. But research article is meant for publication in a journal. Okay, so you have to know two things. One is degree, another one is publication in a journal. That is all. So thesis is for a degree, research article is for publication in a journal. Now they are related, very related, in that thesis can serve as the base for multiple research articles. So you can get research article from thesis. For instance, the thesis that I wrote for my Master of Philosophy, I was able to get research article from that and published in the Journal of Cleaner Production. Okay, it is a high quality journal, a K1 journal, with a very high impact factor. I think they just issued the ranking, and it was the seventh among about 400 and something journals. It was ranked the seventh best journal. So I want you to produce papers like that, and I know you are going to produce after the end of our training. Okay, so you can get research article from your thesis, and I'll show you how to convert your thesis to research article. And what I want to demonstrate here is that the effort that you put into thesis the same as research article. Just that the length, okay, the length differs. Okay, the length differs. So how we are going to learn what you are going to do in thesis, you are going to do the same thing in research articles. That is the difference between thesis and research article. Okay. The next thing on our outline is conceptual framework. Why? Why did I jump to conceptual framework? Okay. I learned research. I learned research very well starting from conceptual framework. Why? Because everything that you are going to do flows from the conceptual framework. It flows from the conceptual framework. You are going to get your research title from the conceptual framework, write your introduction based on the conceptual framework, your methodology, your results, everything. Okay? So that is why I'm starting with conceptual framework. So let's say you don't know anything about research. Don't worry. You are going to be a guru in research starting from here, conceptual framework. Okay, so let's start. We are now going to learn research. Okay, let's start. When you say conceptual framework, it is a structured representation of a research state that illustrates the relationship between the key variables. Of course, when we were doing the initial training, someone asked, not all studies have conceptual framework. Yes, it's true. But at this level, master's level, PhD level, you need to be testing relationship. You need to do advanced analysis. You cannot just do, let's say, systematic literature review just like that. It's beyond you. Are you getting it? It's beyond you. So please, conceptual framework will show the relationship of the key variables. So it gives a diagrammatical representation, a diagram. The conceptual framework will give you a diagram, and the diagram will show you the relationship between the variables that you are studying. So the key word here is the variables and the relationship, and then diagram. So the conceptual framework is a diagram showing the relationship between the key variables. What then are the variables? Because we need to know the variables, and based on the variables, we can draw the diagram. Okay, we can draw the diagram. All right, so what are the variables in research? The variables. In research, we deal with variables, okay? One of the variables is independent variable, which is also called IV. Usually, it is also called the exogenous variable. Usually, this term is used in econometrics, doing econs and all that, okay? Exogenous or independent variable. It is a variable that influences or causes changes in another variable. Okay, so I'll draw the diagram and you appreciate it. It is a variable that influences another variable. Let me use a layman's view, okay? Because some of you are doing you are in social sciences, others are in other fields. So I want to give a general example. A parent influences a child, isn't it? A parent. So here the parent influences the child. So here the parent is the independent variable. The parent is independent and the child is dependent. The child depends on the parent. Okay, so when you say dependent variable, it is a variable that is influenced by the independent. The child is influenced by the parent. So the parent is the independent. That is, the parent influences another variable, and that another variable is the dependent. Okay, so dependent variable, it is a variable that is being influenced by the independent variable. Now, you can study only the independent and dependent variable, but sometimes we want to understand the relationship very well, the mechanisms that influence the relationship. Okay, the parent influences the child. We may want to go deep what underscore or underscores the relationship. Okay, that is where the mediating and the moderating variables come in. So a mediating variable is a variable that explains the mechanism through which the independent variable affects or influences the dependent variable. Okay, so the mediating stands in between. It stands in between the independent and the dependent variable. Okay, and then a moderating variable is a variable that affects the strengths or it enhances the relationship between the independent and so please look at the words very well. The mediating here, look at the mediating variable explains how the independent variable influences the dependent. But the moderating variable uh, uh, um, affect the strength or enhances the relationship between the independent and the dependent. So it means that the mediating and the moderating variables are in relation to the independent and the dependent. They will give us more insight into the independent and the dependent variable. The last type of variable that we have in research is control variable. Okay, so control variable is a variable that is kept constant. It is also called constant variables. Okay, so control variable is kept constant to prevent it from influencing the dependent variable. Usually, they are the demographic features that may affect the dependent variable. So here, we are not studying those variables, the control variables, but we need to hold them constant so that they will not affect the results. Okay. Now, let me use so these are variables. Let's use these variables to draw the conceptual framework. Note, in drawing the conceptual framework, we said that the conceptual framework is a diagram. So we are going to draw the diagram. And the diagram shows the relationships. And here we use arrows to represent the relationships, okay? The arrows. The relationships between them. So these are the variables. Now, I want to know whether training programs affects or influences employee productivity. Like what we are doing, we are training ourselves. Okay, this was a training program. So we want to whether training programs influence employee productivity. In this case, training program, let me draw it very small here. Training programs, you can put it in a box, influences employee productivity. Employee productivity. So in this study, we just want to know whether training programs influence employee productivity. In this case, the independent is the training program, and the employee product is the dependent. It depends on the training program. If the program is good, employee productivity will be high. If not, have you said it? Good. So in this case, the arrow will go like this. It will hit the dependent. So when you see this, it means that this variable is the independent variable or the exogenous. And this one is the dependent variable or the endogenous. And so dependent variable is also called endogenous variable. So independent or IV, dependent or DV. We might want to go further. We want to understand more. Okay, what actually influence or influences this relationship? We want to understand better. So we may say, okay, training programs influence employee productivity because, that's the mean, we want to know the rationale because training programs leads to job satisfaction. When we train employees, it will let them they will be satisfied on the job. They will be skilled. Have you seen? So training programs will lead to, so this will lead to job satisfaction. Job satisfaction. And when they are satisfied, the employees are satisfied, then their productivity will be high. In this case, have you seen it is in the middle? Job satisfaction is a mediator or mediating variable. So it job satisfaction is explaining the relationship between training program and employee productivity. Have you seen it? Good. Let's move on. We might want to understand better that okay, to what extent that job satisfaction influences employee productivity. It depends, it can come here or here, it depends, but I'm using this example. To what extent? So you can, okay, employees who are experienced, who have done the work before, okay, and they are satisfied, their employee productivity might be much higher than those who have less work experience. So work experience may moderate. So have you seen it? So look at how I'm going to draw it. I will draw it to hit the arrow, to hit it. Not the box, but the arrow. The arrow that I want to know. Okay, the relationship. So it means that work experience moderates the relation or enhances the relationship between job satisfaction and employee productivity. In this case, we just want to load, okay, employees who are experienced, they have done the work before, okay, high experienced, they will have higher employee productivity following job satisfaction than those who have less. So we want to understand the mechanism. So you see, the mechanisms that influence training programs and employee productivity, the relationship are job satisfaction and work experience. So if we want to understand the relationship much better into detail, that is where we include mediators and moderators. Now, look at here, the dependent variable, the main, when we get to the results, when we are running the results, you understand why I'm saying the main dependent variable. Because when you're running the results at a point in time, the mediator may be a dependent variable. Don't we will get there, okay? So in our conceptual framework, the main dependent variable is the employee productivity, isn't it? That's a dependent or the endogenous variable or the DV, in short, DV, dependent variable. Good. They are employees. So this is at the individual level. Okay, this research is at the individual level, meaning that we are studying individuals, not the organization as a whole. What individual characteristics may affect employee productivity? It can be their age, the age of employee, the age of that employee may affect his or her productivity. It can be the person's education. It can be the person's gender. Okay. So when you think of the characteristics or the qualities that may impact or influence the dependent. So look at how I'm going to draw it to influence the dependent. So the arrow will hit the dependent. Then these are control variables. These are controls. So we need to control for the demographics. Although that is not our concentration, that is not our focus, but we need to hold these characteristics or demographics constant so that they don't affect the results. So basically, control variables are variables that are held constant because or to prevent them from influencing the dependent. So the control variables are drawn to affect the dependent variable. In this model or framework, I have included all the variables you have to know in literature or in research. So independent variable, mediating variable, moderating variable, dependent variable, control variables. It is based on this that we write our research, our title, abstract, introduction, any section. Okay? So please, I would like you to draw a conceptual framework in your field, okay? You have to go to literature, get me variables, draw the conceptual framework. Make sure you include me data, moderator, and all that, and let me know. Okay, so that is all about conceptual framework. Now, based on this conceptual framework, we can now write our thesis or research paper. And the first thing in thesis or research paper is the title, research title. Okay, the research title. So the next thing is research title. So a research title is the name of the study that clearly and concisely communicates its main focus. It should be specific, informative, and engaging while reflecting the key elements of the research. So please make sure you capture the variables as part of your title, your key variables. When I say key variable, don't include the control variables, okay? Your main variables as part of of your title. Now, based on this, look at our conceptual framework. I'm going to propose a title. I can say that the impact of training programs on employee productivity, the role of job satisfaction and work experience. Full stop. I'm missing it. So I just captured. In addition to the title, you can add the context of the study. Let's say I'm conducting this study in Ghana, okay? Specifically SMEs in Ghana. So I can say that the impact of training programs on employee productivity, okay, or SMEs employees productivity. Yes, so SMEs employees productivity in Ghana, the role of job satisfaction and work experience. Usually, we don't want the title to be very long, and in some journals, the maximum limit of the word count for the title is 20 words. Okay, so if you know that the title is getting very long, you can forgo the context. But make sure you capture your variables, your main variables as part of the title. I can rephrase the title. Look at what I'm going to. I will say that fostering employee productivity, fostering or enhancing employee productivity through training programs, job satisfaction, and work experience. So no matter how you bring your topic to make it very catchy, very nice, make sure you capture your main variables. That is the main thing here. Okay. So that is how to write the research title. Capture the main variables and the context. Okay, if applicable. Good. After the title, the next section or the next thing in a research paper or article or even thesis is abstract. Okay, it's abstract. I think at this point, let me use one of my papers so that you appreciate research article and all that. Okay, let me use one of them. I think I got a paper accepted. One of my papers was accepted just today. So let me use that paper in applied economics. So stop sharing. Let me stop sharing this. Then I'll share the paper that was accepted in applied economics for you to get a real or actual example. Good. So this was the paper and it is ready. So they just sent it to me and it is available on Google Scholar. Good. So look at the title. But before I'll come to the title, I need let me go to the conceptual framework. Let me go. So this is was the conceptual framework. So in this paper, I look at whether green operation. So you might not understand the variable because that is my area. You might have your own variables, okay? So green or sustainability, I'm into sustainability issues. So I wanted to know whether green operation or sustainability affects or influences SMEs performance. SMEs performance. And per literature, green operation contributes to green transaction. Don't forget, sorry, don't worry about the variables, the meaning, because it might not be your area. So in this model, you can clearly tell me that green operation is the independent variable or the endogenous variable. Green transaction is the mediating variable or the mediator. SME's performance is the dependent variable or the endogenous variable. Artificial intelligence is the moderator or the moderating variable between green transaction and SME's performance. This study was conducted to include SME, so it was firm level, not individual. See, the previous example was employees, have you seen it? Productivity. So it was individual level. But this study is SMEs. SMEs are small and medium enterprises. Okay, small and medium sized enterprise. So they are firms. So it was firm level. And when we consider firms, what are the demographics that have been proven in literature to influence SME's performance? The size of the firm, the nature of the industry where the firm operates, the age of the firm, they have all been documented in literature as factors influencing performance. So I controlled for size of firm, nature, and age. So these were the controls. Based on these, we then came up with the topic, the research topic, and it was modeling the impact of green operation. The modeling here is just making the topic nice, meaning that we use structural equation modeling. We just modeled, okay? We just modeled. It was a model. So modeling green operation, so the impact of green operation on SME's performance, the role of green transaction, and artificial intelligence. Let's go look at the topic. Modeling the impact of green operations on SME's performance, the role of green transaction, and artificial intelligence. So we just captured the variables and the context. The context is SMEs. Okay? So that is how you can bring any other topic to make it very nice, but make sure you include your main variables and the context. Okay? So that was the research topic. After the topic, the next section of a research paper is the abstract. These are the authors, okay? So the authors is not needed. And then their affiliations not needed. So the next section of a research article or in thesis is your abstract. Now, I told you during our initial training that the abstract can be written after you are done with your research, writing all the other sections, okay? Because it summarizes the other sections. It summarizes the whole paper or your thesis. So before we were able to write this abstract, we had to finish all these before we summarized. Notwithstanding, abstract should include, this is what I want you to know. In writing the abstract, it should include an ideal abstract. So the research problem, the research gap, the research objectives or purpose, the key findings, methodology. Let me even arrange it like that. So the research, the problem, gap, objectives or purpose of the study, methodology, key findings, and implications. How did I arrange it that way? Easy. First of all, the abstract will tell us the problem that you studied and the gap, what was not done. Then, what you did to close the gap, that's the objectives. How did you achieve the objective methodology? After applying the method, what findings did you get? Findings or key findings. Based on the findings, what does your findings or the meaning of the findings? Implications. Full stop. Have you seen it? So the problem you studied, what was not done? Gap. So first one, what is the problem? One. Two, What is the gap? So what has not been done about the problem? That's the gap. What did you do? Objective. How did you do it? Methodology. What did you find? Findings. What is the meaning of the findings? Implications. Systematically. So look at how we wrote the abstract. Small and medium-sized enterprises account for a significant share of environmental pollution, particularly in developing economies. That's the problem. They account for a significant share of they pollute the environment. That's the problem, which adversely affect the overall health. So this is the problem. The problem. Now, based on the word count, we couldn't bring the gap because the word count was very small. If it was 250 words, we would have brought the gap. So right from the problem, we came to what we did to solve the problem. What we did, the objective. So in this context, so have you seen it? The first sentence was the problem. Then after the problem, what we did to solve the problem. That's the purpose. In this context, the study aims to examine the influence of green operations on Ghanaian SMEs performance. The paper assesses the mediating role of green transactions. So based on the conceptual framework, I hope you know the objectives. Good. The mediating role of green transaction in the relationship between green operations and SMEs performance. Additionally, it explores the moderating role of artificial intelligence in the relationship between green transactions and SMEs performance. That's the purpose or the objectives. Then how did we achieve it? Methodology. That's the next. Structured questionnaire was used to collect data from 413 SMEs in Ghana. Structural equation modeling in AMOS was employed for that. That's the methodology. So methodology, you can mention the data collection instrument, your sample size, the data analysis, okay? The analysis technique, structural equation modeling was used to analyze. So that should be enough for the methodology. Then after we apply the methodology, what did we find? The findings. It will follow. It was found. Have you seen it? So right from the methodology, we are reporting the findings. It was found that green operations has a significant and positive effect on SMEs performance. Don't worry about significant positive. We will run the results. Our guide you. We will run both OLS, the normal OLS, and then the structural equation modeling. Okay, we can even use both PLS and then the covariance based SEM. I'll give you the difference, don't worry. Additionally, green transaction partially mediated the relationship, and we also found that artificial intelligence was found to positively moderate the relation that we studied. So that's our finding. What does it mean? Or the implications, or even the novelty? What makes our study different? The novelty of this study lies in its focus on the combined effects of green transactions emerging from a comprehensive adoption of green operations and artificial intelligence in improving the performance of SMEs. So when we start with the write-up, you understand all these. And this is my area, so the terms might not be familiar. But what I'm trying to say is that when you are writing the abstract, you need to include the research problem, and if possible, the gap, the research objectives or purpose of the study, then the methodology, the results, the implications, and the novelty of the study. This is how to write your abstract. So those writing thesis, make sure you capture all these things. Because thesis, you have enough space for abstract. But research paper, which is limited to sometimes 150 words, 200 words, you may not bring some of the elements, okay? If that's the case, then you have to bring the purpose of the study, the methodology, key findings, and implications or novelty. That should be enough for research paper abstract. After the abstract is introduction, okay? So the introduction, I don't want to make this video very long so that you'll be bored. When you are watching, you'll be sleeping. I will end here. I will make another video for only introduction, how to write introduction, the elements to include, how to make the issues flow, so that you can publish it in a very good or high impact factor journal. So I'll make a video on only introduction and the other sessions, individual videos for the other sessions of a manuscript or um, a research paper. Okay, sorry, a thesis. I just said manuscript research paper. Let me even give you a difference. When you are writing your paper, let me use the paper, and it is not yet published, it is not yet accepted like this one, like this one. It is called manuscript. So you are writing, or even you have sent it to the journal, it is not yet accepted. It is called manuscript. But after it's accepted, the journal will convert your manuscript like this, and it will not be called manuscript again. It will be called research article or research paper. Okay. So this is research article or paper. It's not a manuscript. But by the time you were writing, by the time we sent it to the journal, it was called manuscript because it wasn't accepted then. But now it is a research paper, not manuscript again. All right, so thank you very much. What did we do today? The difference between thesis and um, research paper or article. Conceptual framework. The variables in the conceptual framework. We learned that the conceptual framework is a diagrammatical representation of the relationship between the variables. The relationships are represented by arrows. The variables are the independent variable, dependent variable, mediator, moderator, and the control variables. We drew it, we use example to draw the conceptual framework. Based on the conceptual framework, we came up with a topic. We said that your research title or topic should include your variables and the context. Okay, the variables and the context. I give an example, and I've used this paper to also give an example. In this paper, this was the conceptual framework. And based on the conceptual framework, we captured the main, please, we didn't bring the controls as part of the topic, okay? So these are the main variables: independent, mediator, dependent, moderator. And we modeled it, so structured question modeling. So modeling the impact of the independent variable on the dependent variable, the role of the mediating variable and the moderating variable, okay? Then after that, the next section of your thesis or your abstract is, sorry, your thesis or research paper or article is your abstract. In writing the abstract, you have to include certain things, and we have learned. So those writing thesis, make sure you capture the research problem, the gap, objectives, methodology, key findings, your implications or novelty, and even sometimes conclusion. Okay, you can do some small conclusion there. But if it is a manuscript, it means you cannot capture all these things if the word count is limited based on the journal's requirement. If it is 150 words like ours, you cannot capture all. In that, you have to capture the key items. Your purpose should always be captured as part of the abstract. Methodology, key findings, and your implications or novelty. One of the implications or novelty as your abstract. That is what this video covers. In my next video, I'll be dealing with only the introduction. Then the next video will be methodology. Okay, sorry, the literature review, or the hypothesis development. So we are going to do the literature review. I will show how to write a literature review, like what we have written here. My third video will be methodology. So how to run all the preliminary analysis, how to run this, all what you see here, how to run them. They are very easy and simple and interesting as well. So after methodology, the results, okay, how to run the results and report your results. I'll do a video on that, or we will meet. Because here I want us to interact. So we will meet and we will do that. But I'll also upload it on YouTube for others to have. How to write a discussion. And so all these sections, I'll do video on them. And then I think by that time, you should be well equipped to write a very good journal, paper for publication in a journal, or to complete your thesis for your degree. Thank you very much. See you in my next video. Have a good night, a good day, a good morning, depending on where you are. Goodbye.